I'm now delighted to be joined by a special guest this evening, NHL Network on the Fly analyst and NHL Tonight analyst, Kevin Weeks, a former renowned goalkeeper in the NHL himself. And Kevin is on this evening for a special topic. We've given a real difficult task here this evening to pick his top 10 Hart Memorial MVP winners from 1990 to 2020. So that's over 30 years of some of the greatest NHL players that ever played the game. All the familiar names to all our Irish listeners will be here tonight. The one exception that everyone that will be listening here in Ireland saying is, where is Wayne Gretzky on the list? Wayne Gretzky won the George Hart Memorial MVP in 1989, but won it a record 9 times from 1980 to 1990. He won it every single year except for 87 when Mario Lemieux won it. So we said it would be unfair to put Wayne into this because we felt we knew for certain where Wayne's spot would be. But
sure.
Kevin, before we start, I'm just going to run through the winners here, starting in alphabetical from 1990 and working our way down. So in 1990, we had Mark Messier, won the Hart Memorial title for the Edmonton Oilers. In 1991, Brett Hull won it for the St. Louis Blues. In 1992, Mark Messier won it again, this time for the New York Rangers. In 1993, Mario Lemieux won it for the Pittsburgh Penguins. In 1994, the Russian Sergei Fedorov won it for the Detroit Red Wings. In 1995, Eric Lindros won it for the Philadelphia Flyers. And Mario Lemieux again won it for the third time in 1996 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. In 1997, Dominic Hasek won 2 on the bounce, 97 and 98. In 99, Jaromir Jagr, the Czech, won it for Pittsburgh Penguins. In 2000, then the start of the millennium, Chris Pronger won it for St. Louis Blues. In 2001, Joe Sakic won it for the Colorado Avalanche. In 2002, Jose Theodore won it for the Montreal Canadiens. The Swede Peter Forsberg won it in 2003 for Colorado Avalanche. In 2004, Martin St. Louis won it for Tampa Bay Lightning. In 2006, Joe Thornton won it for the Boston Bruins. The Canadian Sidney Crosby won his first of his illustrious Josh Hart Memorials in 2007 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Alex Ovechkin did 2 on the bounce in 2008, 2009 for Washington Wizards. The Swede Henrik Sedin won it in 2010 for the Vancouver Canucks. 2011, Corey Perry won it for Anaheim Ducks. In 2012, Evelke Malkin won it for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Ovechkin won it again then in 2013 with the Washington Wizards, and Sidney Crosby won it in 2014 again with the Pittsburgh Penguins. In 2015, Corey Price won it for the Montreal Canadiens. 2016, the scoring sensation Patrick Kane won it for Chicago Blackhawks. 2017, the flying another sensation of the NHL, Connor McDavid, won it for the Edmonton Oilers. 2018, Taylor Hall won it for New Jersey Devils. And 2019, Nikita Khrushchev won it for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I suppose, Kevin, before we get your number 10, I suppose the names here on this list, it's a great reflection of the NHL over the past 30 years because all the standout names, they're all here.
They're all there and very well represented across the league. We have a lot of different players. We have Canadian players. We have American and Patrick Kane. We have a lot of European players as well, which speaks to the depth and the greatness of our athletes in our sport. What's really cool about that, too, is the Pittsburgh Penguins have been on there a lot. And when you have greats like Malkin, Crosby, of course, the great Mario Lemieux, who's their part owner right now, and Jaromir Jagr, the great Jaromir Jagr, who I played with the New York Rangers toward the latter part of his career. They have 4 of them in that franchise history. That's wild. So when you sent me that list, I was checking out the email, and you did a great job compiling it. So thank you for that. But just in looking at the names on there, and I played against pretty much everybody on that list and played with a lot of those guys as teammates. So it's pretty wild to consider that and how many different generations that spawns. But as I mentioned, players from every different background. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I suppose the reason why we didn't go back towards the 80s was because Wayne Gretzky won it. So the 80s decades just belonged to Wayne Gretzky. There was no other contender. So,
yeah, exactly. The video game for Gretz. It was the video game for him. Crazy. So good.
Kevin, we'll start. So we'll compile the list. So, and we'll start with your number 10. And who takes the number 10 spot for you?
At number 10 for me, it's Marty St. Louis, Hall of Famer Marty St. Louis. In 2004 with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'll let you great fans over in Ireland and around the world that are tuned in a little story. We played together in Tampa with the Lightning. And it was our first season in Tampa. I kid you not, Marty and I spoke about this. I had him on my Instagram live show about a month ago. And I remember he said to me, he's like, we see, I know I could do more to help the team, French Canadian. I know I could do more to help the team. I said, well, go talk to the coach. Go talk to Coach Ludsey. Tell him. Well, 2 or 3 years later, he won this MVP. He was a fourth line player to start, undrafted. And 2 or 3 years later, he won this Hart Memorial Trophy as league MVP in 2004. That's a testament to his greatness and his conviction and belief in himself and his incredible work ethic.
And Kevin Martin, St. Louis, he's a right wing. And if you could maybe give 3 sentences in terms of his playing ability? What was his style? What was his great strengths?
Greatest strength was his motor, and by that I mean his legs, his speed, his engine. Google image Marty St. Louis' legs, and you won't even believe it. They look like tree stumps. It's crazy. He was so jacked, so fit, but his legs and that base allowed him to play to his motor and seemingly never get tired. That would be one thing. Secondly, I would say his ability to make plays all over the ice in the offensive zone. Similar to football for you guys, I think the most lethal players are where they're not predictable, whether they have the ball or they're off the ball. And the same thing in hockey, whether Marty had the puck or he didn't have it. As a teammate, I can tell you, and then playing against him after that, he was so dangerous because he didn't have his pet spot that he had to get to score. He could score or he could make plays anywhere in the O zone, as we say, the offensive zone. So those are the 3 traits that I'd give him. And one key thing was unfailing conviction in himself, unfailing belief in himself, even when he was just trying to cut his teeth at the NHL level, like I just told you, to then becoming an MVP, to being enshrined in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto last year. It's been an amazing run, but that's the way I'd surmise him.
So we have started the ladder rolling. Martin St. Louis has taken the number 10 spot. We'll move up the ladder now, the next rung of the ladder, as we go descending towards the summit of Mount Everest. And who takes this spot for you, Kevin?
At number 9, I'm going to go 1995, the Big E, as he's known, Eric Lindros. Listen, growing up in Toronto, I played against Eric's brother, Brett, and I played with Brett for a little while too. And when Eric's 2 years older than us, and when Eric was 13 or 14, I'm getting goosebumps telling the story. He was the next one. Wayne Gretzky was the great one. Mario was Le Magnifique in French, which is the magnificent one. And the Big E was the next one. There's nobody like Eric Lindros. I've never seen another player like him. That combination of size and speed and skill and power and toughness and grace, he's a prototype, and he hasn't been replicated since. That's how rare of a player he is. So that year that he had just down the turnpike, we're in Jersey outside New York City. That's our house where we're at right now. And about an hour 20 minutes south of us is Philly, the city of brotherly love, where he played the majority of his career. And specifically when he was a Hall of Famer, he became a Hall of Famer, winning that Hart Trophy that year. That rare combination, you couldn't find it. That speed, that size. He had scouts. He had NHL scouts. If you go back and look, he played in Oshawa. He played his junior hockey in Oshawa. And Oshawa's arena was 15 minutes east of my parents' house in Scarborough, back home in Toronto. And we would go and watch him. This is before I got to the OHL. We would go and watch him with buddies of mine. And the scouts would be like this, watching every shift. They'd just be – and NHL scouts are usually really cool. We knew what they looked like because we were top prospects. We knew them to see them, even though they wouldn't really talk to us. But when they had their top hat on and they had their scout book and their notebooks, like their jaws would be slack watching him play. What a rare player.
And I suppose, Eric, in terms of the partnership, they called it the trio that was there in Philadelphia Flyers that time, beside Leclerc and others. They were just Legion of Doom.
That's what they were doing.
They were just in terms of frightening, in terms of the NHL coming up, because the goal threat was from all 3 of them. But Lindros was the sort of central spine, the sort of peg in those armory. And if he was absent, maybe the Legion of Doom was only operating as sort of 30% or something when Lindros wasn't there.
100%, because that was the thing. They were all so big and powerful. I had the Big E on, Eric. I had him on as well. He was a guest on my Instagram Live about 3 weeks ago. And I asked him that very question. And he said, he played on great lines on all those Team Canada teams internationally, Olympics, World Cup of Hockey, Canada Cups, and all those things. He played World Juniors. But he said that line, the Legion of Doom line, is far and away probably the best line he's ever played on. He said their ability to read each other, their timing, their spacing, their sense of pace, and just movement and motion. He said they just knew it was like a sixth sense. They knew where each other were on the ice at all times. I played against that line. For that size and that strength, every one of them could crank the puck, and I mean shoot it hard and heavy. So that was a lethal force. They lived up to their name. When you're named the Legion of Doom as a line, you reign supreme for sure, and that they did.
I suppose so. Kevin, we're descending up the ladder again. So at 10, we've Martin St. Louis from Tampa Bay. Number 9, we've Eric Lindros from the Philadelphia Flyers. We're going to move up to the number 8 spot. And who takes this for you?
Yeah, number 8, I'm going to go with another former teammate. In 1999, we played together in 06 and 07. He had over 120 points that first 06 year with us. The great Jaromir Jagr, Mario Jr., as he calls himself. His 1999 season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He talks about his time, and he's told me this, about how he said Mario taught him the game, the great Mario Lemieux, the great Brian Trottier, who was later in his career, taught him the game, the great Ron Francis. I'm just showing you the names that they had on that Pittsburgh team, the great Paul Coffey, the great Larry Murphy. I mean, those guys are all Hall of Famers. So that just goes to show you how stacked they were in that team. Even Arizona's current coach, Rick Tocchet, was on that team. They had so many, Joey Mullen. There's so many players, but Mario came into the league, which was rare at that time, at 18 out of the Czech Republic, out of Kladno in the Czech Republic. And he came in, and he was already a man. He hung on to the puck. He extended shifts. He dominated possession. It's like one-man keep away. He played one-man keep away. That's really what it was. But he also had a knack for finishing himself and also setting up his players as a playmaker. So, again, I had a chance to see his greatness. I'm going to share this with you, which will be wild. We lived in the same building in New York, different floors, albeit, but we lived in the same building in New York, same condo when we played together with the Rangers. And after practice, sometimes I'd be talking smack with him. I'd be like, you don't have anything today, Yogs. Your shot isn't anything. I'm catching flies when you're shooting. It's too easy. Give me some chopsticks. Your shot's soft today, blah, blah, blah. I'll catch it with chopsticks like Bruce Lee, just horsing around. And here's what he would do. After practice, he'd be, okay, you and me. He'd go in our locker room, Rangers locker room, take off like his shoulder pads, whatever, come back in a Rangers sweatsuit, like warm-up suit, winter toque, Rangers toque, his gloves, 2 sticks of skates, let's go, you and me. He'd stay out there. We'd be out there for about another half hour. But what was unbeknownst to me, which your viewers are going to love, I didn't know this playing with him. He would drive back from Upper West Side, New York, back out to suburban Terrytown of New York to the practice facility at night on his own and practice again on his own. And we played with him at the time. We didn't know this. So it was only until he left us and he went to Philly, I think, and then we started hearing about it because some of the Flyers players and some of their staff knew. But I played with him for 2 years and didn't know that that was his routine. So he'd practice with us. Him and I would do extra, drive back to New York. He'd leave the city and go back at night to the practice facility. Therein lies success leaves clues.
I suppose Jaromir as well, he was an assassin really when the opportunity came about.
Big time. Big time. Yeah, he was so opportunistic because especially early in his career, he was faster than you thought. He had a little more acceleration than you thought for being such a big man. But at the same time, that's the guy you never want to give the puck away to. That reach and the size and the range, his range was crazy. And Mario had it as a right-hand shot. Mario's stick looked like a pole vault. Like he'd be here and he'd hold his hands up close together like a golf club. And his stick would be way over the other side of the basement. So that's what made it so tough. But then Jagr did the same thing as a lefty. He held his hands up here like Ian Poulter or somebody, like you're trying to maneuver a golf club, but the stick is all the way out there. So for a goalie, it was really tough to get a read on what he was going to do. He never really telegraphed anything because traditionally when your hands are further apart, you can see if they're going to shoot. They can they give you some little giveaways, but we couldn't read the release from Jagr at all, or Mario for that matter.
I suppose, Kevin, so we've number 10, Martin St. Louis from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Number 9, Eric Lindros from the Philadelphia Flyers. Number 8 is Jaromir Jagr, who won it in 1999 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we're going to move up just outside the number, outside the top 6. And who comes in at number 7?
1996, Mario Lemieux, the great Mario, who's their current owner, Le Magnifique, which is the magnificent in French.
Super Mario.
Oh, Super Mario, because it was a video game for him too. again, he's one of the guys that I grew up watching and aspiring to make the league. I was going to make the league. That was my goal. But for him being such a superstar in his size, but finesse and grace, he almost looked like a ballroom dancer. Like when he was out there, he was so elegant in how he played. He just used to like flow, hair, pass, shot. And it was just his cadence to how he played was so different because it was ballet, really, in watching him. The grace that he moved with. Because usually hockey is a very like sport. It's very anaerobic, so to speak. But his grace and his magnificence. I mean, I was lucky that I got a chance to play against him at the end of his career. He came back a couple times, and I played against him. He got one on me. He scored one on me. But what an incredible player and equally great human being. And also, he's part owner. He's part owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins. As you know, he's their secondary owner to Ron Burkle. So he's awesome.
And I suppose, Kevin, in terms of Mario, they'd say when the bigger the occasion, the more he came alive, especially the business end. When playoffs, it was Mario time as the sort of thing. When it came as the going get tougher, the more he started to enthralled in it, the more he started to enjoy this as much as the saying goes. The bigger occasion, the more it suited him.
Big time. Absolutely, man. You know what? His nickname was Ace, Super Mario, but his teammates called him Ace. Because he was an ace of spades, man. They had him, and they knew that. Again, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. Like, they knew that in the bigger the games, something huge was going to happen. You didn't know when, but you knew for sure it was going to happen. And he would go out and paint a Basquiat, or he'd go out and paint a Picasso of a goal, like just that beautiful. Waltz through three guys, forehand, backhand score, like just the grace that he was able to play with. But yeah, super clutch, Super Mario. He lived up to that moniker. One of the best that's ever done it, hands down.
I suppose, Kevin, so number 10, Martin St. Louis, Tampa Bay Lightning. Number 9, Eric Lindros, Philadelphia Flyers. Number 8, Jaromir Jagr, Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 7, Mario Lemieux, Pittsburgh Penguins. Who takes number 6?
Number 6, I'm going to say Nikita Kucherov. Kucherov came off of an amazing year last year. It was one of the best years I've seen offensively. He was so dynamic, and to be able to generate that offense the way he did, which is interesting because he's a winger, but his ability to make plays and see the ice are akin to a center iceman. So he's what I call a playmaking winger. There are very few of them. Patrick Kane is very similar in that respect right now, but that's very rare in terms of a winger that's able to make plays, create for others, and then score him or herself. So all that being said, it was a monster season for Kucherov. Massive disappointment for Tampa last year after they won the President's Trophy for finishing first in the regular season in the league. Playoff disappointment for sure. But I spoke to Kucherov. I interviewed him backstage during NHL Awards in Vegas after he cleaned up all those awards, and it was just one after the next after the next. So when I'd interview him backstage, it's like, all right, Cooch, we're here again. All right, Cooch, congrats, you're here again. He literally cleaned up. He had a haul last year at NHL Awards.
And I suppose, Kevin, there have been some great Russians in the NHL. Ovechkin, Fedorov. Is he the next new breed to take on that sort of mantle? Because we know what those two names are so illustrious. Kucherov is coming in now. He'll probably have to put more seasons back to back to sort of live up to those guys and the hype about those players.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. That's fair. I think the best thing for Kucherov too is at times he can be a little bit streaky, but he doesn't need a lot of touches. It's the same thing we talk about, and you guys would say in football. Some guys are a high volume shooter. They need touches. He doesn't need touches. It's one touch and it's bam. And he's either make the play or score the goal himself. So that's what's really rare for him and rare about him. But he's on the right path. He has all the skills to go down as one of the great Russian players for sure. And, when I talk about Tampa and the great players, I talked about Marty St. Louis, who was a Hall of Famer, Brad Richards, who I played with there at the same time, Vinny LeCavalier, Dave Andrechuk, who's already a Hall of Famer, Steven Stamkos, their current captain, who was on that trajectory. Kucherov is a young superstar Russian player and one of the best players in our league. As I said, he's reigning MVP from last year. So I love his game offensively.
Kevin Weeks, we're going to move into the top 5 now. So just a quick run back: 10 Martin St. Louis, 9 Eric Lindros, 8 Jaromir Jagr, 7 Mario Lemieux, 6 Nikita Khrushchev, and we're into the top 5 now. And who takes number 5?
At number 5, I'm going to go 2013 Yevgeny Malkin. And I'm going to tell you what's we were just talking about Russian players, him being one of them.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, Malkin kind of reminds me of Jagr. That's what some of the Pittsburgh people have said over the years. Although Yags was a winger and Malkin's a center, but just size and strength and possession and hold on to it. See a play, no play, hold on to it. See a play, no play, hold on to it. Make a play. Again, he too wears a beret out on the ice. I'm saying that figuratively because he is very artistic in his game and in terms of his ability to read and improvise offensively. But here's what's wild about that. If you remember, he blew out his knee the year before.
Yeah.
And their strength and conditioning coach, Mr. Kadar, for Pittsburgh at the time, was flying to Russia that summer to work with Malkin. And at the time on Penguins.com, on NHL.com, they were showing some little snippets of these videos. Fast forward from the summer to that October season opener, they were playing in Vancouver. I was doing color on that game then for Hockey Night in Canada. And to say this, and I'm going to tell you this, which was wild, I remember talking to him that morning, and you could see in the pregame skate in the morning, he was still kind of guarded, naturally. He just had knee reconstructive surgery. That fast forward from game 1 to game 82 to season ending to NHL awards in Vegas at the end of that season, he's league MVP. League MVP coming off a reconstructed knee. Are you kidding me? ACL, PCL, UCL, every CL in his knee was reconstructed. Complete reconstruction. He was league MVP the following season. That's wild. That's mind-boggling to me. That goes to show his greatness.
And I suppose in terms of Malkin, they use the word wizardry and sort of poetry and sort of to motion, and the sort of the players that peripheral vision, they say, is a great thing in hockey. Being able to see something, having that picture in your head, even though your eyesight mightn't see it, but you know that it's on. And that's the thing about Malkin. He just sees things that other players at speed as well. He can see things at speed, the pace he's going, that other players, just their depth perception, just their awareness, just they can't grasp it.
You're right, and that's a unique aptitude. And I'm glad that you raised that point, because I always talk about it's multi-sensory, right? When their ability to process through sound, through sight, through intuition, through feel, it's so intuitive and it's multi-sensory. So a lot of them, they're just not beating you with their eyes. It's like they have a super processor like this MacBook that I'm talking to you on. They have a super processor, and it's so synchronized between their ability to see, feel, time, hear. So it is multi-sensory in terms of what they're able to do and how they're able to use that to their advantage. And he certainly does that.
Okay, so Kevin, we've started off in terms of the top 5. We've Evgeny Malkin for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're going to move up to number 4, just outside the top 3. And who takes this?
Okay, I'll go a little quicker for you. At number 4, I'm going to go with Patrick Kane, 2016, Buffalo, New York's own Patrick Kane. He's a proud Buffalonian, born and raised in Buffalo, New York, blue-collar town. They love their sports. They love their NHL Sabres and their NFL Buffalo Bills. And he's a proud native of Buffalo, man, but star for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Scoring sensation.
Scoring sensation, as I heard you say earlier. He's the fastest American-born player in NHL history to 1,000 points. I just spoke to him by text 2 days ago. Patrick Kane will go down as the best American-born player in the history of the National Hockey League in over 100 years. That's how great he is. I've got a chance to meet his parents. They're great people. At some NHL events, just saw them again at NHL All-Star Weekend in St. Louis earlier in January, and got to speak to them a little bit. He's a special kid, man, special player, special breed. And as Jonathan Toews told me, their captain on my Instagram, he sees some Michael Jordan in Patrick Kane's game. That's all you need to know right there.
And I suppose in terms of Patrick, we talk about franchises and the iconic sort of franchise players, the longevity. And I suppose in terms of Patrick, he's been loyal to Chicago Blackhawks. I suppose all the big teams would bite their hand off in terms of trading if they felt he was the missing armory to get him that Stanley Cup. But is it Patrick in terms of achieving sort of what he wants to achieve in his career? Is it does he need more pieces around him? Is his greatness being held back in sort of one aspect as well?
I think what the challenge is for Chicago is they're victims of their own success. They've been so great. They've won 3 Stanley Cups, and they've done it here in a salary cap era. Think of the amount of times they had to rebuild on the fly, retool on the fly, resupply, run out of gunpowder, resupply as far as players. So look at the players that they don't have on their team anymore. Dustin Byfuglien, Patrick Sharp, Nick Jarmerson, Johnny Oduya. They lost Ray Emery, God bless his soul. He perished last year back up in Toronto area in a boating accident. Just think of the different players. Andrew Shaw. There's so many players that Chicago had that they had to shed to be compliant with the salary cap. So it's a tough situation, but hey, they're back in the expanded play-in playoffs right now. So, and Kaner's having another whale of a season. So anytime you have Hall of Famers like him and the great Jonathan Toews and Duncan Keith and those guys, they have a shot.
We're going to move into the top 3 now, Kevin. And who takes the number 3rd spot for you?
Yeah, number 3, I'm going to go with Sidney Crosby, man. 2007 Pittsburgh Penguin, the 4th Penguin on the board, as we talked about up from the outset of the show. Sid is a special player, special person. As great of a player as he is, he'll go down as one of the best ever. He's an even better person. I can tell you, he's one of the guys, one of the many that I've spoken to, especially right now during some of the needless racial inequality that we're facing and some of the challenges around that. Sid was one of the first guys to reach out to me. He's top shelf in every way, man. As great as you see him play on the ice, he's our generation's Wayne Gretzky. And as great as you see him on the ice, he's an even better person. I can tell you that, and that's wild for me to say, but it's true.
Yeah, and I suppose that's probably the one thing that many hockey fans would love to see. We all draw comparisons between, I know in NBA, so people saying LeBron James, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, right. Michael Jordan. I presume the same debate is in NHL hockey. It's basically it's Sidney Crosby, Wayne Gretzky, Sidney Crosby. And are you one of those guys as well that just don't like to compare players from different eras because obviously the game is sort of different or in that sort of things? Or do you think it's an unfair comparison to put Crosby in terms of Gretzky? Or
Well, here's I understand the nature of the question. I think sometimes there's just some similarities. Every era is unique in terms of some of the style. Is it more of a pace, speed game, which we have now? Is it a wider open game as it was during the majority of Gretz's era? Is it a physical game as it certainly was during Gretz's era? So some of those things make it difficult to really quantify objectively. But I can tell you, I played against Gretz. Gretz had 4 points on me when I was playing with the Florida Panthers and I just came in the league. He was then with the Rangers. They beat us 4-3. He had 1 and 3. He had a goal and 3 apples, 3 assists. And I played against Sid, and Sid scored on me a couple times too. So having played against both of them, I see similarities in their game. You'd have to adjust things by way of the eras, as you mentioned, but I could definitely see similarities. Now, I'll give you this quickly because we're tight on time. The late, great Kobe Bryant, God bless his soul. When you watch Kobe play, you see similarities between Kobe and the great Michael Jordan. And I talked to their trainer, who was Jordan's trainer first, Tim Grover, and he said Kobe came to me and he'd bug Mike and he used to bug Michael and he would bug him and he wanted the blueprint. And he followed that blueprint, and the rest is history. So Kobe was very similar when you watch him play to Jordan. In certain ways, Sid kind of reminds me of Gretz too.
I suppose that's number 3, Sidney Crosby. We're down to the runner-up spot behind the number 1, and we still have the likes of Dominic Hassett on the list. We still have the likes of Connor McDonald on the list. We still have the likes of Sergei Fedorov, Alex Ovechkin, Peter Forsberg on the list. So it's very intriguing. And where are you going to go for number 2?
Number 2, I go to my former teammate, the great Mark Messier. I played with him in Vancouver later in his career. And this was 1990 when he was at the Oilers. Keep in mind, the great Wayne Gretzky had gone on. Wayne Gretzky had gotten traded to the LA Kings to start what is this southern expansion that we see in the NHL today with the Sun Belt teams. But Mark Messier, not only did he not play with Gretz that year, he led the Edmonton Oilers to the Stanley Cup that year in 1990. That was the only one that they got without Gretz. So Mark Messier is amazing, man. He's a fantastic human being. I'll tell you this quickly. Not only was he a great player, for us young players, and cups, and he brought the cup just across the Hudson River here to New York. You know, he guaranteed that, and he delivered in that in '94 for the Rangers as well. But here's one thing that's wild about Mess. This is what's wild. When we're young players, he always made sure we were fed. He always made sure, and this is when we played with him, He would always have us over to his place. Hey, man, you know, my chef Maria's cooking. You can come over for dinner. I'll have you over. If a young player got called up from the minors to the big club, sometimes he'd go and get a suit and buy a suit and have it in their locker. That's the level of detail that Mark Messier operates on. Class through and through.
And I suppose, Kevin, we're going to come now to number one spot.
Yes.
We have a certain Russian still here, and I'd be surprised now the way this is going if we don't have a Russian at number one spot. Am I correct?
No, you know what? I love Ovi. Ovi knows that too. But you know who I'm going with on this one? I'm going to go with the great Dominik Hasek. I'm going to go with Dominik Hasek because Dominik Hasek, you know, I played with the great Marty Brodeur, who's the GOAT. He's the greatest ever. But to me, Dominik Hasek dominated games in hockey as a goalie the way Jordan did on the court. And I've never seen a guy that dominant before or since. Dominik Hasek, a 93% save percentage. And he used to have that, like, turning on the tap.
The Dominator.
Like the Dominator. Are you kidding me? He did stuff. He was like Roger Bannister for the runners and breaking that record for the mile, for running a mile. So when Dominik Hasek was putting up 930, 935, 932, 937, which is 93.7 save percentages in the NHL, we never thought that was possible to play at that level. And he was able to do that. So, and he did it in a way that was unique. He did that in a way that he had shooters baffled. And I remember, lastly, I'll end on this. When he played in Buffalo, talking to players on the Sabres, they said, we can't score on this guy in practice. That's with nobody defending them. They couldn't score on him in practice. So even when they would work on the power play, whether they had penalty killers or no penalty killers, they could hardly score on him in practice. So as hard as I practiced, that pushed me to practice harder. He helped bring our position to a new level. That's why I have the Dominator at number one. He was able to do something that no other goalie was able to do before in the history of the sport.
Kevin Weeks, your Hart Memorial Trophy winners at number 10, Martin St. Louis, Tampa Bay Lightning. At number 9, Eric Lindros, Philadelphia Flyers. Number 8, Jaromir Jagr, Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 7, Mario Lomo, Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 6, Nikita Khrushchev, Tampa Bay Lightning. Number 5, Evgeny Malkin, Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 4, Patrick Kane, Chicago Blackhawks. Number 3, Sidney Crosby, Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 2, Mark Messier of the Edmonton Oilers and New York Rangers. And number 1, Dominik Hasek, the goalkeeping sensation. And before I let you go, Kevin, just for the last minute or two, just two players that came to mind there on the list, and I suppose they'll probably feel greatly aggrieved that they aren't on any sort of list there. The great Swede, Peter Forsberg, springs to mind, and then the Russian, Sergei Fedorov.
Yeah, as far as Peter Forsberg, I had a chance to play against Pete, Fopa, as he's known. That's his Swedish nickname. And he was a rare combination of power and intensity. He was literally like a lion on the ice. He was. They called the name for the Swedish team is the Tre Kronor for the 3 crowns. He played like a lion. He was so hard to get off the puck. Man, his balance and his ability to hold on to the puck and bully his way to the net and make plays. He was incredible, both in Colorado, of course, and just down the turnpike in Philly, where I played against him in both those places. I haven't seen a player like him either. Very unique player. And then in addition to that, Sergei Fedorov, I think of the great Steve Yzerman, who was the face of the franchise of Detroit for so many years. And Fedorov is probably the most versatile superstar I've seen play. And I'm going to tell you, or play against. Because Fedorov, Scotty Bowman will put him on defense sometimes. So for him to be that good to play defense and trusted to play defense for Detroit when Detroit was Detroit, and believe me, we were on the wrong end of Detroit many times. And we lost the Stanley Cup Finals to them in 2002 when I was with Carolina. So I saw the peak greatness of Sergei Fedorov. He was a unique player.
Kevin Weeks, an absolute pleasure talking to you as we look back in the Hart Memorial Trophy winners of the last 30 years, and where Dominik Hasek for you is crowned the king of the last 30 years. He takes the gong, the number one spot of all those great NHL ice hockey greats. And no doubt, Kevin, we look forward to seeing you back NHL ice hockey. Everything is coming back, and we look forward to seeing the ice hockey on our screens here in Ireland. And stay safe, stay well, and pleasure as always. And hopefully we speak to you again sometime in the near future. Take care, Kevin.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. Bless you. Thanks for having me on. Thanks to all the NHL fans over across the pond there in Ireland. I hope you're drinking a nice Iron Brew right now. Thanks for watching us on the NHL Network. We appreciate you. God bless and stay safe.
Cheers, Kevin.
Thank you.